2 weeks ago, more than 1,000 American evangelical pastors and Christian influencers traveled to Israel in what organizers hailed as a historic pilgrimage, the largest such delegation since the state's founding. Arranged by the Friends of Zion initiative and blessed by Israel's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the visit was greeted with presidential ceremony. It was marketed as a spiritual awakening. In reality, it was a political crusade cloaked in the language of revelation. From Jerusalem stages came the familiar liturgy. Mike Huckabee urged attendees to return home with the fire of God burning in your bones, so that they might be pro-Bible and therefore pro-Israel. Mike Evans, founder of the Friends of Zion Museum and self-styled kingmaker behind Netanyahu, warned against giving Bible land to radical Islam Jew haters. The message was unmistakable. Israel presented as biblical truth made flesh, its enemy reduced to radical Islam, the conflict framed as a cosmic duel between Judeo-Christian virtue and Muslim darkness. This script is not new. It's been rehearsed for decades and faithfully echoed by Christian Zionists who imagine themselves guardians of the besieged Holy Land. But the entire spectacle rests on a deception that Palestine is a story of Jews versus Muslims, and that Christians, by faith, by identity, by history, naturally belong on Israel's side. Christians are not outsiders in Palestine. They're not visitors, observers, or decorative minorities. They're indigenous, ancient, constitutive of the Palestinian people, older than Zionism, older than Europe's nation states, older than the political theologies now mobilized in Israel's defense. For over 14 centuries, Muslims and Christians in Palestine lived not in grudging coexistence, but within a shared civilization, deep, sustained, and organically lived. That history begins in 637 CE, when Jerusalem surrendered peacefully. Patriarch Sophronius agreed to hand over the city's keys only to Caliph Umar ibn al-Khattab himself. Umar traveled from Medina with one servant and a single camel. They took turns riding it. As they approached Jerusalem, it happened to be the servant's turn to ride, while Umar walked beside him. Those waiting mistook the servant for the Caliph. The ruler of a vast empire entered Jerusalem on foot, dressed simply, indistinguishable from the people around him. A quiet inversion of power. Umar refused spectacle. He refused domination disguised as holiness. He signed a covenant guaranteeing Christian lives, churches, property, and worship. Not one church was destroyed. Not one Christian was forced to convert. When invited to pray inside the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, Umar declined. He explained that if he prayed there, others might later seize the church in his name. Instead, he prayed outside and forbade Muslims from ever turning the church into a mosque. Power restrained itself deliberately. That ethic endured. Once Salah ad-Din al-Ayyubi later liberated Jerusalem, the arrangement governing the Church of the Holy Sepulchre was accepted by Christian custodians as a stabilizing solution. By mutual consent, the keys were entrusted to two Muslim families, the Jude al-Hussainis and the Nusaybis, neutral stewards of a shared sacred space. More than 8 centuries later, they still open the doors each morning and close them each night. This is not domination, it's stewardship. That shared life carried into modern Palestinian history. During the Great Revolt against British rule in the 1930s, Christians were not peripheral, they were leaders. Fuad Serba served as secretary of the Arab High Committee. Alfred Roche of Yafa was among its members. The Palestinian flag bore both crescent and cross, symbols of the national movement sustained by both faiths. Later generations produced an extraordinary constellation of Palestinian Christian figures. George Habash, founder of the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, Naif Hawatmi, leader of the Democratic Front for the Liberation of Palestine, Hanan al-Ashrawi, the articulate diplomat, Emil Habibi, novelist and political leader who gave literary form to the lived absurdities of Palestinian life under settler colonial rule, Edward Said, one of the most influential intellectuals of the 20th century who reshaped entire disciplines, literature, cultural studies, post-colonial theory, while remaining firmly rooted in the Palestinian experience. Khalil Sakakini, the Jerusalemite educator and diarist. Nabiha Nasser, founder of Birzeit University, educator, feminist and Arab nationalist. Palestinian Christianity was never marginal. It was central to politics, to culture, to education and moral imagination. And in the arts, that unity was lived rather than declared. The trio Jabran, three Christian brothers from Nazareth who carried the words of Mahmoud Darwish, a Muslim poet, to world stages, because in Palestine, culture was never sectarian, it was shared. A few weeks ago, I attended their concert at the Barbican. Before one piece, The Trees We Wear, Samir, one of the brothers, explained its origin. It had been written deliberately as a love song. No politics, just an insistence on something Palestinians are rarely allowed, the right to be romantic, tender, fully human. Shireen Abu Aqli once attended their concert in Ramallah and said that that piece was her favorite. 3 years later, Shireen, a Palestinian American Christian journalist, was shot dead by Israeli soldiers while covering a military incursion in Jenin. Her body fell beneath a tree. The trio later dedicated the song to her. A love song became mourning. When Shireen's coffin was carried through East Jerusalem, Muslims and Christians stood together to shield it as Israeli forces attacked the pallbearers. This is the Christianity Christian Zionists refuse to see, because Palestinian Christianity exposes the lie at the heart of their narrative. This is not a civilizational war. It is a colonial project, one that has devastated Christian life. In 1948, Zionist militias bombed the Semiramis Hotel, killing 25 Palestinian Christians. 12 Christian villagers were executed in Ailabon. The Nakba displaced around 90,000 Christians and closed dozens of churches. During Israel's assault on Gaza, churches were bombed. Even the Church of the Nativity endured military siege. Before 1948, Christians made up more than 12% of Palestine. Today, barely 1%. Clergy like Dr. Mandar Ishaq warned that by 2050 there may be no indigenous Christian presence left at all, and still Christian Zionists remain silent. They defend a state that bombs churches while claiming biblical values. They sanctify power while ignoring the people whose faith was born on this land. They also echo a deeper contempt. British commentator Melanie Phillips dismissed Christianity itself as nothing more than a Jewish sect that got slightly out of hand, revealing how easily Christianity is instrumentalized, then discarded. Because this was never about God. What presents itself as Christian solidarity is in truth the willing placement of Christianity in the service of a supremacist, exclusionary ideology, one that cannot tolerate Palestine as it is, plural, indigenous, historically layered. You can't defend Christianity while empowering a project that is extinguishing its oldest communities. You can't claim fidelity to Christ while blessing the erasure of the land's first Christians. Christian Zionism doesn't merely ignore this destruction, it enables it. It provides the alibi, the veneer of righteousness, the moral camouflage. What remains is not faith but ideology, wearing scripture as disguise, not belief but power, seeking absolution. That is the Christianity made invisible here, and that disappearance, more than any sermon or slogan, exposes the deepest hypocrisy of all, invoking Christ while standing shoulder to shoulder with those destroying the very roots of Christianity itself.